For the right person at the right time, an orthotic might make sense. But for every single person with foot pain, you shouldn't be presenting that as the solution, because that's very disempowering. As a professional, your patient's health is no longer your responsibility. You're not there to fix them, which is extremely energy intensive and kind of heavy. The change is I am here to help this person navigate the process of health. Their health is their responsibility. I'm here to make sure they have all the best tools to be able to navigate that path productively, to share my understanding that I've gained through my experience of helping others.
Welcome to the Restore to Explore podcast from the Foot Collective. We're on a mission to empower humans to restore their natural health and function from the ground up, so we can all explore movement and life with freedom and confidence.
All right, so we're all here together in the US, one of our final days, and we've been exploring a lot this TFC Pro concept that we've just launched in the last couple of weeks as of time of recording. And we've had a bunch of pros sign up, which has been really cool. And we figured it'd be nice to just properly explore it, a recorded conversation, just to get into the whole reason for it, basically the why, the what, and the how. And a good place to start is the why, and that is basically the state of the foot health and I suppose the healthcare industry in general, but obviously focusing on the foot health industry.
I think we believe that, a big part of our mission is to sort of reshape or change the shape and the future of foot health. And I guess if there's something that needs reshaping, we should probably know why it needs reshaping and why it needs changing. And we've got some stats here, and I'm not a big fan of stats because I find that they can, be twisted any which way you want to deliver what sort of desired effect you're after. But these ones are pretty telling. And it's really just how much money is spent on foot orthotic insoles, on foot health in general, and chronic pain in general as well. And, the foot orthotic insoles market is currently worth $3.9 billion. That's as of 2022 globally. And that's projected to grow to over $6 billion by 2030. And to be honest, I reckon that's probably even conservative when you look at the growth of the other stats as well. The podiatry services market in 2021 was worth $4.3 billion, and that's projected to grow to over $5 billion by 2028. And then the chronic pain treatment market is a staggering $81 billion. That was, as of 2022, and projected to grow to $190 billion by 2030. And I think that paints a bit of a picture of the pain issue, something that you both have experienced as practitioners. And there's clearly, therefore, something's going wrong if that much money is being spent on really what we view as stopgap measures or band-aid fixes to issues.
And the fact that it's predicted to keep growing. It's like that is very telltale of the issue, which is that symptoms are being managed, and key word is managed there. Not necessarily even resolved, but symptoms are being managed without actually the root cause being treated, which is or without much in the way of prevention, which is why there's so much being spent and why it's predicted to keep growing.
And that's why we put the chronic pain stat in there as well, is because while we do focus on the feet, it's not just the feet that, are being impacted by people not looking after their foot health. We believe that it's, whole body function that can be impacted by the misuse of the foot. So,
yeah. And the foot is really just it's like the canary in the coal mine almost. It's quite obvious that most people's feet are dysfunctional, but and a lot of that is related to footwear, which we'll have a whole podcast on. But a lot of it is just our modern environment, our culture, our sedentary lifestyles. All of that contribute to foot dysfunction, but as well as just whole body movement, musculoskeletal dysfunction. So we could add even more stats into there about, chronic diseases like heart disease, strokes, cancer, all of those are related to a lack of physical activity. And that is a big part of what we want to solve. We just start at the feet.
I think in terms of changing, the path and really rewriting the story of what does it mean to help people move beyond pain or injury. I think in the world of, and I make like a distinction between disease care, which is diagnosing and treating symptoms of disease, versus healthcare, which is helping people take care of themselves. And I think sometimes there's a misnomer where what we really have is disease care, but what we often call it is healthcare. And I think so long as we do that, we're not acknowledging the reality that we don't actually have a system in place designed to help people take better care of themselves so that they don't get sick as often. And I think oftentimes in disease care, there's this notion, or at least from what I've seen, it's like we're very hyper-focused on efficiency, right? How do we see more people in a certain unit of time? How do we provide more treatment within a confined period of time? And what's sort of like not acknowledged even is effectiveness. Like, okay, we're focusing on doing more with a certain fixed amount of time, but the honest conversation is, what are we doing with the time we have with people? And is it actually the most powerful way to actually provide the biggest return on that time? And I think that's where healthcare, it's like, okay, there's disease care, there's healthcare. We often call disease care healthcare, but we have to acknowledge that having a system in place to help people take care of themselves, and underneath that, in terms of the business side, having financial incentives that incentivize professionals to help people take care of themselves and to empower people instead of treat people. I think this is all part of the bigger conversation, which is sort of the opportunity that we see with Pro. It's like the biggest problems are the biggest opportunities if someone can kind of create a solution that really gets to the essence of the problem and solves it in a novel way that allows for efficient use of resources and actually effective outcomes to be achieved.
And we don't want to give broad generalizations to every practitioner and the way that they practice, but I mean, how would you describe the current state of play? I mean, I can start with you, Jim, but what are the incentives currently, and how has it gone, so wrong that those numbers are expected to continue increasing, whereas if we were doing it right, they should be decreasing?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that, and we always say this, but we don't think that there's evil healthcare practitioners who are just out to get people's money and to, keep them in a cycle of pain. But the systems that are set up, like a disease care system, like you said, Nick, incentivizes that to happen. So even if the individuals themselves do want to help, the system is set up such that that isn't the outcome, because the incentive structure is that people are not empowered to take care of themselves. They're not given the education or the tools needed to actually take care of their own health. And so therefore, they're also often given the wrong information about how the body works. They're given sort of negative beliefs about the body, outdated information about how much of an influence, structural changes on imaging, as an example, actually should influence their pain levels and their function. So there's so many variables, but at the end of the day, or at a high level, healthcare practitioners are incentivized to provide disempowering treatments so that people become dependent. They're essentially incentivized to create dependency rather than independence.
And even if they don't want to, if there's a choice between doing something better, if you learn better, and being able to run a business that doesn't go broke and be able to support your family and pay your mortgage and pay for food, it doesn't matter how badly you want to do something different or and have a better way of doing it. If there's no business model that supports it, and you can't support your family or have a thriving business doing the right thing, then something needs to change to create opportunities for people to be financially rewarded for doing the right thing. And I actually think like that's pretty exciting to me, because the people who are the healthcare professional of the 21st century is someone who is really good at empowering the people they work with to find the right resources and the right tools and to make the right behavior changes to feel better. And the better you are at that, the better you are at using resources effectively and efficiently, the more you should be compensated. Because right now, the more you see someone, the more you're compensated if the model is fee for service. And if the model is fee for outcome, then you could see people 1/5 the amount of time, make sure they get access to the right tools, charge them less, and make more per unit of time you spend with people. And just this idea that really effective healthcare professionals should actually be really well compensated because they're saving the whole system money, monetary energy, by just doing the right thing, by being effective instead of focusing on being efficient.
And I'd argue that it's not just disempowering for the patient or the client, the person going to see the physio, but
it's exhausting.
Well, it's disempowering for the professional as well. The business model that's set up, and I saw it with my brother who is a relatively new physio and went out into the brave wide world and got one of his first jobs, and then entered a physio practice where it was very much a business. It was about getting people back over and over and over again, signing them up to plans to have them coming in, 6, 7, 8 times, and just keep them coming back. And it didn't align with his values, but that was his first taste of being a physio. And
a lot of physios' first taste is that. And
it's like, that's disempowering for the person who could have the potential to be changing this, rewriting this story with us and reshaping the future of healthcare. Because then you could lose these people with really good intentions and really solid values from the outset. And again, I don't want to blame the business owners as much as the model itself. They're really just rinsing and repeating a model that clearly is making plenty of people plenty of money. And yeah, it's not just the clients that are suffering; it's the people who could really be helping people.
I think it's also important to note that the way I was trained as a physiotherapist in Canada is all about disease care. It's all about diagnosing and treating symptoms. And just, saying that knowing what we know now, there is a better way and we can do things differently doesn't mean that way was bad or wrong. We just have to, be honest with saying that, okay, well, if you know better, you should do better. And it doesn't demonize or make the old way bad. It's just we're evolving our thinking and we're getting new information and understanding new ways of helping people, realizing that health is an inside job and only the individual can truly make changes. Sustainable, effective changes in their lives have to be done by the individual. And so our role as professionals is no longer to be the solution. It is to empower them to make changes in their lives so they can solve the problems. And that's like a very different role and perspective. And as of right now, that's not taught in school. And so you almost have to be either experience pain, like at the end of treating in clinic, it was like spiritually painful to know that I have all this energy, this life force energy that I'm putting into a business and seeing patients, and it's really just being used in a way that actually doesn't benefit these patients long term as badly as I wanted to. And the reality was people didn't even come to see me with the intention of learning how to take care of themselves. They came to see me with the notion that I'm in pain, I want you to make me feel a little bit better. So it's like reshaping expectations, reshaping the landscape of how pros are educated, reshaping the financial incentives that nudge business models and individual choices so that the easy path is actually just to be a healthcare provider instead of disease care.
It's a cultural thing. And like you said, as physios, we didn't get any information about really healthcare or preventative stuff. It was all disease care focused. And same with podiatry. Most of the courses focused on orthotic prescription and how to assess for orthotic prescription, and that you could go deep into the weeds about who funds the research, which then gets put into the university curriculums and so on. But at the end of the day, that is just the culture at the moment. It is disease care culture. And there's a lot of finance or financial energy in that disease care culture. So that is it is hard to come up against. But at the same time, I know personally, and can see online that there are a lot of practitioners who are starting to step away from that model. Like it's not ubiquitous, and there are people running successful businesses that are empowering people too. So it's kind of like we want this TFC Pro model to connect those people and also show some people that, hey, this is the way we're doing it. Maybe you can do it this way too.
And we're really fortunate, this hasn't been like a knee-jerk reaction to a necessity to have a TFC labeled health professional out there. It's literally based on the foundation that we have had people who've aligned with TFC, who align with the values, who practice the way, who practice the way that we believe, and it's working for them. Like they're the busiest they've ever been, as practitioners, and the results speak for themselves. And I think like another key element to what we'd like to see change is not just the incentives switch financially, but I think health practitioners need to, and health and movement professionals across the board need to be incentivized to look after their own health first as well.
Yep. That's a big one.
Leading and being the example. Because I know personally, when I've gone into some health professionals in the past, you've walked through the door and from the outset, you've questioned why you're there at all when you look at the state of the person who is treating you's health. So I think that's another big key to what we'd like to try and change.
Definitely. I think the more you've worked on your own health, your own movement, the more you can lead. It's kind of the concept of leading by example, rather than, or do as I think currently there's a do as I say, not as I do culture in the disease care system, whereas it should be a lead by example. You acting in alignment with your own values and your health will inspire other people to do it, even without you necessarily telling them exactly what to do. Just with the way that you show up energetically, if you've got thriving, vibrant energy, people feel that, and what you say will hold more weight, and what people will be more keen to learn from you versus, if you're underslept, you're not eating well, you're not moving much, it shows, and people inherently, even if it's subconsciously, just don't really trust what you're saying.
And even just being able to, having the movement capacity to demonstrate things that you're asking people to work towards, even just that is such a big thing, right? Like the amount of, like I've seen professionals, physical therapists in particular in the past, are like, yeah, it's good to be able to squat, and they can't squat. And it's like, okay, well, that takes away a little bit of integrity from if you're telling people to work on this movement or helping them with their squat, but you can't do that movement, if you're not working on it, how can I believe that it's something I should be working towards? And let alone, how can I believe that you're the right person to see to work towards something that you can't even do?
Yeah.
So I think it's just this lead by example and embody your work. And actually, by embodying your work, your personal health journey actually becomes the most potent learning journey that you engage with constantly, that allows you to be better at working, to give better information to the clients and patients that you're serving. So it's kind of like this feedback loop. And if you're connected to other pros who are also engaging with that process, also have this clinical experience to share, you're able to just really hone in on what is the most effective thing I can do per unit of time with the people I work with.
And I was going to say that kind of leads into what we see as sort of our, I'm going to say solution, but our proposed solution to this, which is kind of essentially is our values, truth, fun, and community. We see the combination of that being a powerful method to shift that system, or a powerful approach to shift that system. So we do actually have a whole podcast on this, on our values, truth, fun, community. And we go quite deep in that podcast. It's a longer one, so we don't want to do that here. But in general, like what you just said, Nick, there's the truth aspect, which we don't see as TFC providing the truth that all practitioners must abide by, but it's sort of more collective sense making. So, if you're a pro and you've seen this many people with this condition, you can bring your truth or your experience to the network, to the community, and say, well, this is what's worked for me. How does that match up with everyone else's experiences? And then you can work together to find common threads of ways of practicing and help update each other's software or like tool set, basically. How many different tools can you use and in what context should you use them? So that's that sort of truth where it's a shared truth, shared understanding based on foundational principles. There's the fun aspect, which I think is really underrated, but I think a lot of people, especially the disease care system, there's a lot of practitioners who kind of blame patients for not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing or not doing the things that they're told to do. And I think one part of that is maybe the patient doesn't really understand why you're telling them to do what it is. And I think probably a bigger part is that it's boring.
Definitely.
I've been to physios before. Even when I was studying physio, I went to a physio, got given exercises and didn't do any of them.
I would love to know the percentage of people that actually follow through with their exercises.
It is so boring.
They are repetitive.
And it's like very often it's very low level, and there's nothing wrong with scaling back exercises, but you need to find some way of making it fun or making it meaningful. And so I think that's a big part of what we want to do, is make a very accessible training program or training system fun, so that anyone can do it at pretty much at any level of physicality, and they can start progressing and feel and see progress.
And on top of that, I think simplicity is key as well. There are a lot of exercises that you can get given to help treat a certain ailment, and literally exactly down to how you do it can dictate whether or not that helps fix the problem. If you're not hinging properly or whatever it may be, we want to design a training system and have designed a training system that means that you self-organize and your body is sort of the teacher. Because that can sort of slow people's progress down as well, and can probably throw them off doing the training at all, because they've got no one to, as soon as they leave the physio office, and they've got no one to dictate whether they're doing it right.
Yeah. And then the last one being community. Obviously that ties into what I was saying before about a community of professionals sharing their experiences, sharing their truths with each other, but also the community aspect for the patients and for the clients, and all the pros and clients being in the same community because they all share the same values, and being able to keep an eye on each other and witness each other. And so the pro is witnessing the client, say in the digital community, doing the things that they are sort of quote unquote told to do or that they know are important. And then that client can also see what the pro is doing. And there's this sort of shared progress or shared witnessing of progress that allows them to deepen their therapeutic alliance, their relationship, and helps them both move forward.
It's like the ultimate transparency to that experience, not relying just on the degree that the pro may have sitting on the wall, but actually seeing that they're putting in the work for their own health is pretty incredible. And to be able to engage with a client. I mean, yes, it may take a little bit more of your time, but I think the output that you'd get from that would just be incredible. Having a genuine relationship with the people you're helping, beyond the treatment room. And
even from the perspective of pros being present in the community as a way to actually get exposure, right? Like if there's a bunch of community members in the digital container that are asking a bunch of questions, and there's a bunch of pros even right now that within the digital community that will go in there and answer questions. And I bet you there's a certain percentage of those people who they help for free, right? They're giving their time to go in there and answer questions. Probably a portion of people will reach out to them and say, hey, can we work together? It seems like, you've been very helpful, even just on the digital space. I can see your proof of play and your proof of work. I think I'd like to work with you. I think it would be a good fit. And so even just from the perspective that we have this global community of people, some of whom will need help at some point from a pro. If you're a pro and you're present in the community, you already have a relationship and a bond with that person that goes much deeper than just a random physio that they don't know that are around the corner.
I've got the perfect example. We had a shoes optional stroll in Brisbane about a month or so ago, and Travis, who's a local podiatrist, one of his clients came along. I can't remember her name now. That's going to bug me. But she was in town from Adelaide. She lives in Adelaide. Come over for a wedding. And on a Saturday, the day after the wedding, she got up nice and early to come down for a community stroll to connect with her podiatrist and to hang out with people from the online community. And they were chatting and joking and engaging like old friends. And then their treatment had only been online. Like they hadn't met each other in person before that experience. That doesn't happen with the usual current system. I would never go for a stroll with any other practitioner that I've ever engaged with.
And it's the network, the community network that aligns everyone together and connects them, right? The digital space is a place where you have all these people who are, potentially isolated on their own, and the digital community builds a bridge so that they can actually meet in person or develop a relationship. And I think there's this notion of integrity when you see a pro and they're living what they're asking you to do. Like that is, they can do it all, they do it frequently, and it just gives you a sense of ease or trust, I think, when you know that they're doing the work as well and they live in alignment with whatever they're recommending as a treatment or the education that they're providing. So
it's probably good for us to lay out exactly what a TFC Pro's values are, or what we see as the tenets of being a TFC Pro. But before we get into that, I think it's good to give context just to how this would look for whether it's a practitioner or a client and one of our community members. Essentially, the core element of the TFC Pro network that we're trying to build is a directory, an online directory where if you have an issue, or you're looking for a podiatrist, a physio, or a movement coach, a yoga instructor, a Pilates instructor, a coach of any kind, a personal trainer, you can go to a central space where you can find a health or movement professional that aligns with TFC's values and these tenets. And then if you're a health professional and you want to connect with clients who are looking for a model that's going to empower them, that's the directory that you want to be on. Is there anything else we should add for that context before we jump into the tenets?
That's definitely the main thing. And the other thing is we want to have, I guess, little local nodes where people in our community can go for tools, quite possibly, whether it's wholesale or get connected with footwear and so on. So there's different paths that you can go down as a TFC Pro, but definitely that's the biggest one. Is we have a big community of people who are seeking a different method than the traditional methods. So if you're a pro who is offering a more empowering alternative method to the usual orthotics, supportive footwear, all of those things, or you might use those tools as well as short-term devices, then yeah, you definitely want to be on that directory because it's just a growing global community. And there's always going to be, as we can see in those stats that we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people that need help.
Yeah. And on top of that, while the directory is sort of the outwards facing way of connecting the professionals to the people who need the help, the private pro community that you would become a part of as a TFC Pro is, again, a space where you can engage with one another and learn from one another. And to be honest, that alone, even if you didn't get a single extra client off the directory, just being in a private community with other health professionals learning from one another, we'll be holding live calls once a month where we can get these people together and get them to ask their questions and share their truths and share their experiences and learn together. That alone, I think, is worth investing in, especially when you know that you're learning from people who align with these tenets that we'll go through.
Yeah, because I think a lot of professionals who treat in alignment with the healthcare approach are actually the black sheep of health professionals, because it's really not incentivized in terms of the traditional business model. And so finding like-minded professionals or even as a pro, if you're interested in taking a different approach, but you actually don't know where to start or how to do it or how to make money, just the idea that you could connect with someone like Andy, who has sort of proofed this new model of being a podiatrist that is in alignment with empowering people to understand how to take care of their feet, and what footwear to wear that's conducive to restoring foot health. He's already doing that model and actually getting great results from it in terms of his business. So him actually treating in alignment with health is good for his business, the way he runs it. And if you're a podiatrist and you kind of don't know a template of how you can actually shift the way you do things, because right now the bulk of your revenue is generated by passive tools or a certain way of treating symptoms, being able to connect with another pro who is doing it that way and get a template and have conversations, I think there's a lot of value there.
Definitely.
And this is Andy Bryant, you know, a podiatrist who used to practice traditionally and now is a natural podiatrist and is booked out and has clients traveling across the country for his services. So there is a path.
Good example. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the tenets, we originally called them the 10 tenets, but we realized you could just call them the tenets. But so the idea here is that we're not actually providing a course or a certification, at least at this stage, for professionals, because we realize that as long as people align with these 10 points, basically, or these 10 values or tenets, they can sort of practice however they want, and everyone will practice the way they do based on their own experience clinically, based on their own degree, based on their scope of practice, based on their whatever ongoing professional development they've done. So it's really not us saying this is how you must practice. It's really just an alignment of these values. So the first one is actually that I share TFC's values of truth, fun, and community. So again, highly recommend just going and checking out that podcast. We don't have to go into all of that right now. But that's probably really the biggest one, which is why it's number one. 2, my primary tool for helping people is education. So that's a big one because it kind of spans over all of the different health and movement professional sort of landscape. There are a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of different scopes of practice and different experience, skills and everything based on your profession. But a core thing I think is educating people, as in empowering them with knowledge and awareness and skills so that they can be more independent, basically. So that's you. So whatever you are doing, even if you are using orthotics, the education around the orthotics is kind of what matters. And if you're using massage or manual therapy or surgery or whatever, they all have their place, but as long as the narrative that you're saying or the education you're giving is empowering, then that's okay by us, basically. that aligns with us.
And the beauty of aligning with us is that we do a lot of that heavy lifting for you.
Because we can provide a lot of the education.
A lot of free education out there. And again, that comes down to, and we'll get into this later, but saves you a lot of time. Yeah. If you're not having to be the key educator, but you can
just refer to, like all these podcasts. We've got our free guide to foot freedom. There's a lot of education in the community. There'll be more and more on the YouTube channel. So yeah, that's a good point.
And pros also, we would hope that the TFC pros will help us update and improve and iterate all this education as time goes on. And so even just the idea that pros would go through some of the fundamental education, core education pieces that we offer people, and bringing things up for discussion in pro round tables, being like, well, this is in the guide to foot freedom. This is a little bit different than the way I view it. Here's my perspective. What do you think? And this idea that, this community of pros is almost like an added layer of the immune system for truth in our community to make sure that, they're the ones with this huge repository of clinical experience and pattern recognition and background understanding of the body. And so, they're like a panel of experts that can sort of help us revise, iterate, and improve our education. And so every pro should feel good about referring people to our education because they're part of creating it and making sure that it aligns with truth.
Yeah. So, very well said.
Sweet. So 3, my approach aims to restore foot and movement health through training and lifestyle changes. So kind of point, like, we are the Foot Collective. We start at the feet, so you need to be aiming to restore foot function, not just manage the symptoms of a dysfunctional foot. And same goes for movement. We want foot and movement health, not just managing of symptoms. And through training and lifestyle changes. So yes, there's the exercise that you do with someone in person, but then the lifestyle changes is where, I guess, the education part comes in, where it's, yes, you're doing this training, which is really good, improving your strength, mobility, coordination, and so on. But if you're not also making these lifestyle changes, it's like pushing a rock uphill kind of thing. You could be doing a good thing, but it's a lot harder to make long-term progress. So those two things, I think, are pretty key to use in tandem.
Yeah.
Number 4, I use passive modalities like orthotics, manual therapy, surgery, etc., as short-term tools in order to facilitate the above, as in the restoration of foot and movement health with training and lifestyle changes. So basically, as I said before, all of those passive modalities can have a place, and that we're not against them at all. It's just the way they're used as long-term solutions, or like seen as solutions, like surgery as a solution, just completely ignores the original root cause of the issue. So yes, use those, but use them to facilitate more of the training and the lifestyle changes. Would be the way we see that.
Yeah, because if you're presenting something that someone can't do themselves as the solution or as the fix, you're fundamentally disempowering them because they can't continue that on sustainably themselves. They are then reliant solely on you or the tool or the thing to make themselves feel better. And really our entire approach with education being the primary tool is to empower people with the understanding they need so that they can take better care of themselves, so that they don't need to come see you as frequently or to solve all the little problems, right? And I think as a professional, the idea that your role is no longer, your patient's health is no longer your responsibility. You're not there to fix them, which is extremely energy intensive and kind of heavy, right? It's like, that person's health is my responsibility. That's heavy. The change is, I am here to help this person navigate the process of health. Their health is their responsibility. I'm here to make sure they have all the best tools to be able to navigate that path productively, and to offer them, to share my understanding that I've gained through my experience of helping others. And those are like very different things. That's a lot lighter actually as a professional, because you're not responsible for other people's health. You're simply responsible for making sure they have access to the best information so that they can make the best choices. And I think that really does differ from traditional disease care education programs, where you are there to provide the fix, not to guide someone to change their lifestyle so that it aligns with health, so that health is the byproduct. So yeah, viewing these passive modalities, which, like you said, it's all about trade-offs. It's like, what is the context you're using it in? For the right person at the right time, an orthotic might make sense. But for every single person with foot pain, it's probably not. You shouldn't be presenting that as the solution, because that's very disempowering.
Yeah. Number 5, I endeavor to cultivate an open and growth-focused mindset. So I think this relates. The open mindset is pretty important, because otherwise you just get stuck in your way of doing things, and you think your way is the best way or the only way, and you're closed off to other ways of doing things. So it just limits your potential, or your options, and the potential tools in your toolkit, and you could be missing out on things that could help people more, or help other people, like certain people in certain contexts. So keeping an open mindset is good, and a growth-focused mindset. Obviously, growth mindset versus fixed mindset is a really big thing in psychology, and acknowledging that you've always got both room and potential for growth and improvement as a professional, I think, is really important, and that you're actively exploring all of that to, again, lead by example.
And that just comes down to their own experience as a pro. I mean, if you want to get the most out of being a TFC pro, and you have to have that mindset, because you have to be willing to learn from other health professionals and from the clients you're seeing and the clients they're seeing. And if you don't have that, there's really no point in getting involved.
No. Number 6, basically
Bit of overlap.
follows on from that. There is overlap to all of these, but number 6, I'm committed to ongoing learning and personal development. So yeah, and then number 7, I aspire to embody my work and lead by example. So yeah, a lot of overlap between those 3 points. But the general idea is you as a pro should be progressing and growing yourself so that you can then pass on your knowledge and experience to your clients.
And there's this interesting thing in the traditional world of disease care professionals where it's like I have to get learning credits each year, right? It's like I have to go to a weekend course, try and learn some new thing to say that I did it, to check the box off that I did my ongoing credits. And that's sort of the predominant mindset in the disease care world. Whereas I think the healthcare mindset is actually every single week of my life, every single day of my life, I'm working to actually improve my own physical health by playing, by experimenting with to find different areas where I've got weaknesses or imbalances. And so it's not like you have to go on a weekend to take the course to check the box off. It's like every single day you're aspiring to improve your own capacity and function. And the lessons you get from that is the ongoing professional and personal development. Personal development is the professional development when you're actually living your work and embodying what you do. So I think that's a very, I've always felt a little bit cringy when I hear like, oh, I have to go do my professional development credits this weekend. It's like, well, what are you learning? And is there any incentive to apply it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like this side thing where I'm doing the thing to get the credits, but it's like, what are you doing in your life? If you're actually working to improve your own function, you're learning a huge amount of stuff that can eventually benefit the people you work with. And that's like it's a different mindset, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very true.
Number 8, I'm curious and I love to play. So curious kind of relates to that open mindset again. I love to play. Like we're all about fun here at TFC, as you know. It's one of our core values.
It's our middle name.
It's nice. And yeah, we think that we think fun is a very important aspect of health, and to facilitate fun for other people, you kind of need to be having an outlet for fun as well, and like a passion for play. So that's a pretty important aspect.
Yeah, and again, like I'd recommend people go and listen to the Truth Fun community episode, but fun is something you've got to experience. And I think if you listen to that episode, you'll understand why it's so valuable. And I wouldn't allow that to be the turn off for you, because it's very easy to discover how important fun is if you just play.
Yeah.
So if that's the one that you're a bit iffy on, just play a bit and then ask us a question if you still have any.
And it's even just talking about this now, it's like the legacy disease care sort of playbook is design a corrective movement exercise routine for someone, whereas the healthcare sort of approach is how can I design a really truly fun experience that this person can engage with every day, because then they're going to want to do this, right? How can I design a fun experience that aligns with helping them improve the function and capacity of their body, which as a byproduct of that will get rid of the pain and the issue, right? And it's such a different thing. How do I design really fun experiences for the people I work with? It's such a different thing than what are the best exercises for this person's specific issue, right? And it's more exciting to design truly fun experiences for people than it is to pick a list of exercises to give someone that deep in your soul, they're boring as shit and they're not going to do them.
Yeah.
So.
And what a unique way to have a client come in and to spend a portion of that session just playing together.
Yeah.
The benefits that could have, not just for their physical health, but their mental health and the relationship that you're building. I bet if I went and played with a practitioner, I would be wanting to go back every few weeks. If I had a truly fun experience that ensured that when I got home I wanted to keep playing, and that was what was going to help me, that's sustainable.
Yeah, definitely. Number 9, I wear natural footwear and spend time barefoot. So again, this relates to leading by example, embodying your work. If you talk a big game about the benefits of barefoot and you're not spending any time barefoot, there's a fundamental mismatch basically there. And same goes for natural footwear. Like if you're wearing big, thick Hokas, for example, and you're saying, oh yeah, you should transition to natural footwear, then there's a mismatch and people pick up on that. Whereas if you do wear natural footwear or even go barefoot in clinic, I know Andy goes barefoot in clinic very often, if not all the time. But even if you're wearing natural footwear, then it's kind of like a conversation starter. It's like, oh, what's the go with the shoes, or what's the go with no shoes?
Yeah.
And it also shows that it's possible. Because I think a lot of people are kind of disconnected from that fact that you can actually go barefoot, or you can at least build to being able to go barefoot.
There's something very powerful as well. Like I used to, when Mike and I really realized that, like, wow, assessing feet actually gives you this giant amount of information about people's foundational capacity in their body. We would just go barefoot, and it was funny because a lot of the residents that were in the sport med side, these young doctors would come in and be like, why aren't you wearing shoes? And we would go through it and be like, yeah, you can go barefoot too. Maybe not when you're seeing patients, but when you're cruising around, feel free to be barefoot. And the really interesting thing is you're literally showing your proof of work, right? When a patient takes their shoes off and you say, well, I've been working on my foot health for a while. This is what a natural foot looks like. It's widest at the toes. My big toe is straight. My feet are muscular. I can balance on one leg. You can see all the work that's being done. You don't have to tell someone what their feet should look like or be able to do. You can just show it. And I think, again, it's part of this trust and integrity built into the idea that, wow, this person actually, I don't have to believe that they know what they're talking about. They're showing me that they've done the work to get to this place. And there's like a deeper level of trust when it's like, don't tell me what you know, show me what you do.
Yeah.
And that's a big key to really rewriting this narrative and changing the foot health industry, is literally just destigmatizing the foot itself and making people feel comfortable about being barefoot. Because people are ashamed, and something we've talked about a lot on this trip is just trying to break down those barriers so people don't feel uncomfortable talking or exposing their feet. Talking about or
exposing their private. It's like feet are almost these private parts that you only show certain people, And it's like bringing it back into something that it's acceptable to have naked feet. So I think the tenets are really it really is an outline of a philosophy about how to help other people as a professional. And it's not a rigid outline of saying you must treat this way. It's really just if you can read these points to yourself, and they're actually written to be read to yourself, right? I'm committed to ongoing learning and personal development. I'm curious how to play. If you can read these 10 tenets, or these tenets, and deep in your soul feel a sense of alignment that is actually either what I believe in and act like right now, or is the way that I aspire to be as a professional. I may not be in direct alignment with all those right now, but I'm aspiring and working to make changes to be in radical alignment with these things, and have the way that I treat in clinic and I show up as a professional align with this philosophy. You're the kind of professional that we want to be able to send our community members to. And I think the big thing with the directory and the tenets is, right now, if you are someone that's struggling with foot pain, it's really hard to know what professional to go see, right? Even if a doctor's like, go see a physio, it's like, well, you might have a huge variety in styles of treatment within even the profession of physical therapy, largely based on the business model of the clinic that clinician works in. The role of the tenants is for us to be able to do some level of vetting to make sure that, and basically say, all of these professionals on our directory align with our philosophy of what it means to be a health professional that treats feet and whole body movement health. That it just, that when you go and see one of these individuals, they are going to be on your team, and their mindset is to empower you with the right information to take care of yourself and point you to tools that are helpful for you to be more independent in your process. And I think that's a really valuable thing, because otherwise, I've even had doctors that have come to me literally to have their feet treated, and they're like, well, who else treats like this? Like, I have patients in these areas of town. Who do I send them to? And I've always said, I don't know. Because I just don't know. I haven't had any kind of tool that I've applied to reach out to a bunch of physios and say, how do you treat? Or like, if someone comes in and see you with this, what's your protocol? And so I think this serves as this sort of aligning force to clarify and to really self-select the individuals that align with our approach, and offer a template to people who are in disease care and want something better to see, wow, this is like a set of tenets that I can aspire towards and actually be connected with other people who are also doing that, and we can all work together to learn better, to do better, and together we can learn a lot more than we can individually. So I think Pro is about connecting a community of pros, creating a new template for a philosophy of what it means to be a healthcare professional in the 21st century, where it's about empowering people to take care of themselves, not simply diagnose and treat their symptoms. And I think that's a really important piece of the puzzle with what we're doing at TFC, to create like basically a healthcare system where people have access to really good quality, useful information. They have access to people who can help them along their journey, and for pros to have access to a new incentive framework that allows them to be compensated for being really effective at helping people improve their health by making long-term lifestyle changes, not just by putting band-aids on issues.
Just to sum it up then, I guess, Jim, can you describe then what that would look like in terms of the energy input from a pro and what a professional could get out of it? We sort of had that trinity of the energy trinity. I guess the time, the financial, and
well, it's physical, sort of mental, emotional, and financial. Yeah. So that the whole idea there is that, well, I was basically trying to get deep on like, well, what do pros, what do professionals want? And it kind of gets down to what do humans want, and really it is just an abundance of energy. And that could be physical energy, as in just your overall vitality, which is a function of your movement habits, your sleep habits, your food habits, and all of that. Then you've got your mental, emotional energy, which is partly related to physical. Obviously, there's a lot of overlap here. But, you know, some of that comes from mindset and your relationships and all of those things. And then you've got the financial energy, which is just essentially a reflection of how much value you're providing. The only thing is that there are a lot of people who have a lot of financial energy provided to them for not really giving that much value, except, you know, it's just within that disease care system, as we've talked about. But we want to provide a path and like a container for professionals to maximize their physical and mental energy while also being rewarded financially. Because I think at the moment, the current system, you have to kind of give one up or one or two up in order to get the other.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, you know, if you're either stressed out and working all day to get enough financial energy, or you're not getting enough financial energy, but you're working out a lot and you've got your physical, but then that's taking a tax on your relationships. So it's trying to provide a path to help create a really good balance between all of those, because at the end of the day, I think that's pretty much what we all want.
Yeah. I think it's like time is the ultimate scarce resource, right? We all have a finite amount of time each day. And the way I think of it is value is created when we combine our time and our life force energy to deliver value to the world. What we get in return is monetary energy, and money is really just a tool that we use to store our life force energy and time so that we can use it at a later time to acquire something we want. And I think, to me, TFC Pro is all about helping professionals conserve their life force energy while delivering more value to the world, which allows them to generate more monetary energy for each unit of time that they apply.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
which allows more time for working on yourself.
Yep. For your family,
deepening your relationships,
for your own health, which cycles back in. I mean, more time for your own health, more insights, better service, better value offered to your patients. And I think another part with TFC Pro is also just creating financial incentives that align with health. This is like the biggest, the like missing ingredients. If health professionals don't have a way to make an income that is in alignment with empowering people, then they can't do it. And so that's sort of, you know, we should do a whole podcast about the potential financial incentives in a 21st century healthcare world. So we'll save that for another time. But the goal is as, you know, if you're depleted after a day of work, of treating people's symptoms and accepting responsibility for other people's health, and you're just scraping by making enough money to, you know, basically make enough money to support your way of living, but you're really depleted, you don't have much time to spend on yourself or your family, doing a thought experiment, looking at, well, what would it look like for me to finish the day at work invigorated? Because I'm mostly playing with my patients. And for me to see more people for less time and get paid a part of my income to refer them to really good tools like natural footwear or tools that they can use to train their balance. So it's like I'm left with more physical energy. I find more meaning in the work, so I probably have more spiritual energy at the end of the day, and I'm making more monetary energy by using less units of my time to work. It's like that's kind of what everyone wants, right?
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as a free lunch, but if you're giving more value because you're giving more effective information, then you can make more units of monetary energy in fewer units of time because you're just offering better tools.
Yeah.
And I think that's really sort of the system we're trying to create to give pros an outlet to do better and make more money, because by doing better, you should make more money.
Yeah. And we don't have it all figured out. Obviously, this is a new thing for us. We want the right people. If you align with this, we want you in there so that you can help us make it better.
Yeah.
So that we can create better and better systems for more and more professionals to actually eventually make a real shift in this industry. And we're excited. If you're excited too, get in touch. You can jump on the website and apply. There's the list of the tenants on the website. If you go into connect and then down to collaborate.
We'll chuck it in the show notes. It'll be a bit easier.
Chuck it in the show notes. Sweet. Cheers for listening. And we'll wrap it up there. Anything else to add?
No, I just think, stay tuned, because we plan to share the stories of TFC pros who jump on board. Because I think that's a really important part is like we spoke about, is just hearing how other professionals are doing their thing and how it's working for them. And we can't wait to share those, because there are some really incredible journeys of individuals who've completely changed the way that they do their thing, and seeing the benefits in all three areas of those, of those energy outlets.
And I think the other thing too is just stay tuned, because this is going to be constantly evolving and iterated. Even the tenants, even just reading them through and with a deeper focus, it's like they won't change radically, but they might be tweaked and sharpened. And actually, the people who this resonates with, we want to bring you to the table to be part of the conversation to help us make them better. So whether it's the systems that we're using, the way that we present this, the way that we frame the directory, or even the tenants themselves, maybe every 6 months we do a podcast on TFC Pro, because it's like kind of an embryo right now. And as it evolves and grows, it might go in different directions that we can't think of right now. But the goal is to just make something really offer a better experience for people seeking help, and offer an outlet for meaningful work to pros that really want to practice in alignment with health in a different way than the traditional disease care way. And we know it's possible. We just have to, evolve and iterate this thing to really make it really good for everyone who's interested. So thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
See you guys.